Now it is my pleasure to introduce Professor Charles McKinney for today's Convocation address. Professor McKinney has established himself as a beloved professor who regularly challenges students to think clearly and deeply about questions of race, rights, and freedom, all within the context of American history, contemporary American culture, and the Memphis region. As an associate professor within the history department and serving as the chair of the Africana Studies at Rhodes College, Dr. McKinney has earned the reputation of someone who unapologetically exposes students to uncomfortable truths about the world around them. While each student comes to this material from a different background and with different experiences, the heavy emphasis that Professor McKinney places on discussion within his class allows us to not only engage with challenging text, but also allows us the opportunity to work through these challenges. Outside of the classroom, he works with multiple student groups, college administrators, and throughout the Memphis community. He is a man with a unique passion for teaching, and he's the only reason I've ever purposefully scheduled an 8 a.m. class during my time at Rhodes. Here to present an address titled, "The Dangerous Nature of Education," please help me welcome to the podium the 2018 recipient of the Clarence Day Award for Outstanding Teacher, Dr. Charles McKinney.
Whew. Thank you for that introduction. That was kind of hot. To President Haas, members of the Board of Trustees, my esteemed colleagues, parents, relatives, and friends of the class of 2022, and to the class of 2022, I bid you all welcome. It is truly an honor to stand before you. Before I go on, I got to give a special shout out to my mom and dad who made the trip from Florida to come hang out with us today. Hey, Ma. Hey, Pa. So 33 years ago this week, they were dropping me off for my freshman year at Morehouse College. 33 years ago this week. Mom asking, do I have my blankets? Do I have all my stuff? Dad was like, yeah, he's fine, get in the car. It's time to go. I love you. We'll see you in December. Let's beat it. We got to drive from Georgia to California. Let's go already. 30 years ago. Feels like 30 minutes. And of course, I also want to give another shout out to my mom because she's the first educator I ever met. Former science teacher. And I can say unequivocally that she has forgotten more about the craft of education than I will ever know. And so, hey, before we start, I'm going to give you all one assignment. If you want to have a better understanding of the 20th century, of the dips and dives, of the shapes and contours of this century, of the previous century, I should say, you should select 5 songs from Aretha Franklin and listen to them. Because Aretha has forgotten more about American history than I will ever know. 5 songs, Aretha Franklin. You should do that. So to the class of 2022, I hope you're excited about the journey that you're about to undertake. I hope you're eager to jump into this new phase of your life. I hope you're ready to engage in a series of significant paradigm shifts. You're a college student now. You've been waiting for this for some time. The world is about to expand exponentially for many of you. And you'll begin to interact with people who are not like you at all. You're going to have to grapple with these differences, these different iterations of humanity, and many folks ahead of me have referred to these differences. You're going to meet people, for instance, who of their own free will eat okra or cauliflower. Right? Of their own free will. I don't understand these people, but they exist. You will meet people who do not like Beyonce. You will meet people who have never heard of Led Zeppelin. You will meet people who root for the New England Patriots. You will meet all manner. You will meet all manner of strange and odd characters here at Rhodes, and you will have to learn to respect and coexist with them, to fiercely defend their humanity and honor and affirm their horrible life choices. You will make lifelong friends here. You will meet folks from student life who will indelibly influence you. and shape you. You probably have met a few of them already. And each and every one of you, once and after you have declared your major in history, you will branch out. Well, I don't know why you're laughing. I don't know why you're laughing at that. You will branch out and find and build community with my faculty colleagues, my homies behind me, who will guide you on an intimate intellectual odyssey that will shape the rest of your natural life. Out of all of the wonderful and scary and beautiful ways your life will change over the course of the next 4 years, I think I'm most excited about the transformation you will undergo in terms of your relationship to education. If you do this right, again, if you do this right, you will move toward a relationship with education that will open up the world to you in unforeseen ways. I'll give you a couple of examples of what I'm talking about. Just a few minutes to talk about the nature of educational enterprise when it's operating at its best. In recent years, we've heard a lot about contentious college campuses, debates about free speech and safe spaces, all of this breathlessly relayed with an air of derision or confusion. What's going on over there at that local college? Why all this ruckus? And then there's a subtext to these questions, right? Well, actually not even really a subtext. What folks are really asking is, why don't they just sit down and learn the stuff they're supposed to learn, like I did? Why don't these people just take their medicine? From my perspective, this is a set of questions that reveal a fundamental misunderstanding about the nature of education and our relationship to the venture. Instead of thinking about education as a transaction, I give you a piece of information. Here, Timmy, have some history. Here, Jenny, have some math, right? Instead of thinking of it in this way, let's think about education as a relationship to old and new ideas, theories, insights, concepts. And so the question is, what type of relationship with education will you form over the course of your time at Rhodes? How will you relate to all of this new data, these new perspectives? Patriots fans. How will you navigate your introduction to ongoing debates and conversations across several fields? Now, to be sure, there is something to be said for safety. We hope to guide you through the crucible of concepts in a way that enables you to contend with the ideas you encounter in an environment that encourages your exploration in a safe and productive context. When we are on our jobs here on the faculty and in student life, when we're doing our jobs and when we're doing them to the best of our abilities, that's how this will go down in whatever classrooms or spaces you occupy over the course of your time here. And so for those of you dropping off a young person today, don't worry too terribly much. We will take care of your babies. But in terms of the relationship to knowledge itself, when it comes to this, I think we should shift from a mindset of safety to one that is prepared for danger. Whether contending with new knowledge or the reinterpretation of old ideas, you need to understand how this can be a raucous affair. The danger lies in the willingness to contend with new ideas as we struggle to create new ways of thinking or as we engage timeless concepts. The danger lies in the realization that education can both affirm and upend. It can confirm and contradict. The danger lies in the realization that we know nothing is ever safe from revision. No concepts, no ideas. Nothing can't be reviewed again. And in this revision, right, therein lies the epiphany. In that revision, in that process of grappling with the great truths, that's where we find more truth. The danger also lies in grappling with the context in which knowledge is produced. So you here at Rhodes College, class of 2022, you've got the privilege of creating relationships with world-class faculty while you're here, a coterie of folks who are very much in the business of expanding the contours of our respective fields. A few quick examples of the folks you'll be able to work with here at Rhodes. There will be 72 million people over the age of 50 by 2030. The increasing prevalence of Alzheimer's will be a new reality. Psychology professor Katie White's work highlights the need to better understand both the typical and atypical courses of cognitive changes across the lifespan. In the college's Cognition and Aging Lab, Professor White and her colleagues are working to understand typical age-related changes in cognitive processes such as memory, attention, and language. That's new knowledge being created right here at Rhodes College. Over in chemistry, Associate Professor Loretta Jackson Hayes' work is uncovering the molecular processes fungi use to build, maintain, and adapt for survival facing external stress. The species that she and her colleagues work on is relatively harmless, and I think I'm happy about that, but serves as a model for fungal pathogens like black mold and others that cause crop spoilage. Dr. Jackson and her collaborators are making connections between this research and how we manage housing conditions, especially following water-based and natural disasters and just normal day-to-day poor conditions of living spaces to many impoverished individuals and families. New knowledge being created right here at Rhodes College. Over in computer science, when Associate Professor Betsy Sanders thinks about the generation of new ideas, she is, in her words, quote, forever concerned about the diversity of the ideas and the current ideas that serve the greater community, end quote. To that end, she's thinking broadly and deeply about effective virtual environments. While much of the research in this field centers on gaming, Sanders thinks we're selling the technology short and thinks we could be doing so much more in this area. The impact of the curated use of virtual reality in education, medicine, or human connection could be massive. New knowledge created right here at Rhodes College. Zandria Robinson, Associate Professor of Sociology, recently collaborated with a colleague of hers to write a book called Chocolate Cities, The Black Map of American Life. Ooh, it's good. The socio-cultural look at African-American communities across the United States from the 19th century to the present. The premise of this work is very simple, and it is this, and it is monumental. Almost everything sociologists think they've learned about urban black life over the course of the last 100 years is wrong. This book will fix that. New knowledge being built right here at Rhodes College. Where will these insights take us? How will the work of my brilliant colleagues impact their respective fields? So this is what they're thinking about. This is what they're thinking through. And additionally, and here's where it gets dangerous. Additionally, as they move forward with their research, they make no bones about the fact that the who of knowledge production is just as important as the what of knowledge production. To put it another way, they're thinking both about the production of knowledge and about who's in the room producing the knowledge to begin with. What kind of hit do we take when after 50% of the people who earn bachelor's degrees are women, those numbers evaporate as we move into the STEM fields? What kind of hit as a society do we take when we systematically keep women out of particular areas? What kind of hit do we take when we systematically keep people of color out of particular areas? How are we diminished? We have to grapple with that. We have to embrace the danger. Representation matters. In my academic neck of the woods, history, the danger is derived from pushing away from comfortable, uncomplicated notions of the past and moving towards a practice of history that recognizes that the truth of our past is shaped by the conflict, contradiction, and irresolution that so frequently mark the human condition. We can't afford to be conflict averse as we seek to understand who we are. A few quick examples. Your social studies teacher from a couple of months ago, it was either Mr. Woodruff or Mrs. Applebaum. You know you had one of them, right? It was one of those. They gave you the skinny on 1776, the revolution, freedom. We learned about the founding fathers. Woohoo! Yay. My favorite's Alexander Hamilton, before the musical. He's got this quote that I love, and I talk about this quote a lot because I think it's so instructive. And the quote is this: "The sacred rights of mankind are not to be rummaged for among old parchments or musty records. They are written as with a sunbeam on the whole volume of human nature by the hand of divinity itself, and can never be erased or obscured by mortal power." I love that quote. What's he saying, class? What's he saying? I'm just playing. He's saying the rights of people are not to be found in dusty documents. They are given to us by the hand of the divinity itself. They are given to us by God. It's a beautiful sentiment, 1776. Now, the comfortable route focuses on the lifting, aspirational elements of this utterance and revels in the corner of reality that celebrated the revolutionary moment. What do I mean? I mean that there are some folks who got free in this moment, and we understand that. The dangerous route, however, encourages us to dig deeper into that moment, to reveal the multi-layered nature of freedom. At the exact same time Hamilton is uttering those words, or singing them, or whatever, upwards of 50,000 Africans were laboring in every single one of the colonies. That number would grow to 4 million by 1860. So what happens when we view the revolution as one of the largest sustained slave rebellions in American history? How do we grapple with the fact that somebody uttered the words, "Give me liberty or give me death," but the person who uttered those words was a black woman enslaved in South Carolina? What do we do with that? What do we do when an enslaved person says, "You know what, I believe those words. I believe that my freedom should be self-evident, and I'm out"? What do we do with that? And then what do we do with the fact that this protracted slave rebellion, that everybody who left the farm or the plantation or the city, all of the folks who claimed their own freedom did so in direct violation of federal law? It was against the law for this hypothetical woman from South Carolina to free herself. How do we confront this reality? How do we grapple with what I like to call the simultaneous construction of freedom and unfreedom? Where do we go to seek the resolution of these seemingly irreconcilable dilemmas? One of the things we can do, and this is one of the things you can do in one of my classes, you should totally take one in the next 4 years, is we seek to find the answers to these things. We got to look in the culture. Sometimes we can't find the answers to these questions in the documents. Sometimes we have to go to the songs, the spirituals, the blues, and the spaces of cultural production that explores the gaps in between freedom and slavery, between the sacred and the secular, and between reality and possibility. That's where we can go to find the answers. That's the dangerous route. The danger comes in contending with these contradictions. And let's be clear, taking the dangerous route, there's a payoff to this. We're rewarded with a nuanced view of American history and freedom, one that we don't get from the comfortable route. Do you want to learn about the contours of American freedom? Do you want to learn about the nature of the freedom that we claim to enjoy right now? Grapple with the lives and histories and cultures of the women and men who've been systematically denied that freedom, often in the name of freedom. Grapple in the difficult spaces. That's where we find the answers. Embrace the danger. I think that honoring the dangerous nature of education compels us to cultivate a willingness to hone a practice of unrepentant analysis. Analysis not only of the knowledge we acquire, but the context in which that knowledge is gained. There's a lot of talk out in these academic streets about just studying, just do your work, and let's be clear, you should study, and you should do your work. Mom, Dad, all those times you called the dorm room asking for me, I was in the library every single time for the course of 4 years. Trust me, I'm a doctor. Are we really under the impression that just studying is all there is? As if we can make some sort of division between the ideas and concepts we grapple with in classrooms and dorms and rooms, and the application of these same ideas to the outside world? Are we really under that impression that we can make that separation? Do we really think that's how this works? Do we really believe that our musings on the nature of society are somehow magically disconnected from larger debates taking place in the nation and around the world? Do we think our explorations into music, politics, philosophy, gender, art, science, money, religion, or the built environment are merely a set of academic exercises? Do you really think we're sitting around for the next 4 years asking how many angels can dance on the head of a pin? Are we under the impression that the titanic forces shaping our society are placed on pause for us as we teach and study for exams, complete our experiments, write our papers, and eat fried chicken on Fridays at the Rat? Here's a question. How do you engage in the process of education when one of the largest questions in society is about you? What does your education look like if you're viewed with suspicion on all fronts? How well would you do in school if your arrival to the nation was viewed as a national emergency? How would you navigate your education if the people in your new home viewed your religion as anathema to the principles of the nation itself? How about if a critical mass of scholars and writers openly questioned your humanity? How would you fare in that educational environment? Of course, these issues come to mind because I've been thinking a lot recently about the educational history of my own ancestors, and I'm, of course, talking about the Irish. I am a McKinney. By the middle of the 19th century, virulent anti-Irish, anti-Catholic, and anti-immigrant sentiment played a prominent role in the shaping of political, cultural, and racial terrain of the nation. Anti-immigrant sentiment spread like a contagion. Does that sound familiar? The historian Nell Irvin Painter tells us that the state of New York denied citizenship to Catholics unless they renounced allegiance to the Pope in all matters political or religious until 1821. Scholars across a variety of fields, religion, anthropology, biology, history, openly asserted that the Irish were clearly an inferior group of people. Science, knowledge, it's right here in the data, they said. In light of these grim realities, what did my kinfolk do? Well, they doubled down on the nation's stated belief in religious pluralism. They built a powerful political presence in urban spaces all across the nation, and they confronted the conventional wisdom that reinforced their humanity. No, Mr. Criminologist, you are wrong about us. No, Dr. Anthropologist, you are wrong about us. No, theologian, you are wrong about us. What my kinfolk discovered was that on occasion, our political and moral commitments compel us to confront the content of our education. Sometimes, the stuff we're learning ain't right. And we have to be okay with creating a space to make that assertion. Ironically, they did this all from a consortium of spaces that were safe to them. Oh, safe spaces. How about that? Imagine. Embrace the danger. Now, spoiler alert, I'm not really all that Irish. But I do know approximately when I became a McKinney. Family members have traced our relationship with that surname back to 1840, when David McKinney, owner of the McKinney plantation in Hickory Valley, Tennessee, was given a gift. And that gift was a 14-year-old boy named Jake. Jake McKinney was my great-great-great-grandfather. Grandpa Jake lived the first 40 years of his life as an unfree man, and the last 25 years of his life working alongside his wife Penny to build their freedom from the ground up in the midst of unchecked, unmitigated racial terror. They worked to build that freedom, brick by brick, prayer by prayer, vote by vote. Now, if this were a class on the McKinneys, for instance, we would move from that point of contact, making our way down the family tree, moving towards the present. Perhaps we'd stop and look around in the 1890s, prior to Jake and Penny's deaths, to ponder the incredible strides black folk had made to secure the tentative promises of freedom. From there, we'd probably jump ahead approximately 50 years to contend with the life and legacy of Russell McKinney, an 18-year-old Navy mess attendant, second class, whose life was cut short on December 7th, 1941, because he served aboard the USS Arizona at Pearl Harbor. I'm confident that, like Jake and Penny before him, Russell's short life contained multitudes. There were probably all manner of musings, all manner of insights and epiphanies we could learn about African American history, life, art, and culture by exploring Russell's life. I'm certain that his journey from Hughes, Arkansas, to a naval recruiting station in Nashville to military service in Hawaii would fit neatly into larger narratives about the nation at that time. But for our purposes right here, the point of contact between David McKinney and the 14-year-old Jake, that's what intrigues me. But our national discomfort with that moment, blinds us to the insights to be gained by doing, in the words of Eleanor Roosevelt, the thing we think we cannot do. What's to be gained by grappling with this moment? What's to be gained by trying to deeply analyze and understand this relationship between David and Jacob? What good is this? What do we get out of this? Everything. Up to and including illumination, reckoning, and an understanding of the authentic contours of our democratic heritage. Embrace the danger. So I'm almost done. In closing, here are my hopes for you, class of 2022. I hope you encounter a piece of music that brings you to tears. I hope a substantial portion of the people who will gather on the occasion of your graduation have nothing whatsoever to do with Rhodes College. I hope you have the exquisite privilege of fine-tuning a set of beliefs that will guide you long after you leave here. I hope that you find a group of homies that you will love and cherish for the rest of your lives. I hope you comprehend Martin Luther King Jr.'s understanding of the relationship between love, power, and justice. And I hope you embrace the dangerous but illuminating nature of education. Class of 2022, welcome to Rhodes College. Let's get to it. Thank you.